Hi everyone, my name is Han. I'm the author of Y Wallet, and today we are taking a look at the transaction builder in Y Wallet. This is, in my opinion, this is an important topic because the way your transaction is built determines the level of privacy that you're gonna get. And all wallets do not build the transaction in the same way. There's a lot of leeway. There's a lot of different options, and depending on what the wallet chooses to do, you will end up with different levels of privacy. And by privacy, I mean the information that is going to be available to a third party. Obviously, when you make a transaction, you yourself and the recipient are going to know the details of the transaction. But what we are interested in is what information other people can infer by analyzing the public data on the blockchain. All right, so let's get started. For this, I'm going to use Y Wallet, of course, and I have already set up an account, which you can see on the screen. Oh, one note: you can turn on subtitles, and everything has subtitles. All right, so I have this account, and this account has about half. I have 50 millisec. These 50 millisec are distributed in the three pools. I have funds in transparent, 10 millisec. I have 14 in sapling, and I have 25 in orchard. So all the three pools have some funds. And I'm going to do some transactions to different addresses or different types of addresses, and we're gonna see what kind of what nodes are going to be chosen, and what destinations, what receivers the transaction is going to be using. All right, so let's begin with the easy one. I'm not going to do the transaction per se. I'm just going to show the shape of the transaction, but I'm not going to submit it. Simply because if I do, I would have to wait for confirmations and for the nodes to mature. That's really not that interesting. We are just going to see what the transaction would look like if it was transmitted. All right, so the first one, very simple one, would be T to T. All right, so most of the transactions out there are actually T to T. I would say like 90% of them are T to T. Oh, another terminology thing, T would be transparent, S would be sapling, and O would be orchard. And when I say also, we have a third term, which is a fourth term, which is Z. When I say Z, I'll mean S and O. Because now we have unified addresses that can combine multiple receivers. So when we say we do a T to Z, it means that we're making a transaction from transparent address, our transparent pool, to somebody who has provided us with a UA that has both sapling and orchard receivers. That would be what we call a T to Z. All right, so let's go and do now T to T. To do this kind of transaction, I go to the main menu, the main page, and I do transaction. Okay, let me switch to quick mode. Or quick send is there, guys, so I should be tapped. And then I put the T address. So first, I need to deselect the pools that I don't want to use. If I want to do a T to T, I have to deselect the sapling and the orchard pools. And I also need to pick a T receiver. All right, so for T receiver, let's go take the T receiver from this account itself. So tap, 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 tap until I reach transparent, and I copy this address. So I'll do send again. I have to deselect sapling and orchard, and I'm gonna paste this transparent address. I have 10. I have 10 millisec. So let's start with a transaction that has less than 10 millisec. Right? So if I do 5 millisec, oh, this is 50, sorry. Okay, 5 millisec, and I send it. I prepare it. Actually, don't send it. Okay, what Y Wallet shows us is this transaction plan screen, which gives us a lot of information about the privacy of our transaction. So that at this point, the transaction is not published, it's not sent broadcast. It just tells us that this is a plan, and you are okay with that, then that's what's going to happen. And why would it always calculates the transaction that has the highest privacy possible? But we're going to see, the purpose of this video is to figure out what that means. When you do a T to T, well, we're revealing both the the recipient address and amount, and we're also revealing our own address and our own funds. So that's the worst case possible in terms of privacy, which is why it shows this as privacy very low and in red. So why is it very low? Well, it's kind of clear that, but let's still go through that screen. At the top, you have the recipients. So in this case, when I have one row, it tells you the address where the funds go to. It's from the transparent pool, and it's for 5 milliseconds. Below, we have a line that says we're using 50, well, 5.1 millisec. The 0.1 is because we have to pay some fees. And then we have sapling and orchard input. For this transaction, sapling, orchard input are not present, is 0. And in any case, sapling input and orchard inputs are not shown on the blockchain. This is going to be hidden data. Therefore, wallet shows that data as in a neutral color. Then below we have the net sapling change and the net orchard change. These are the values that are going to be on the blockchain. And these are the values that we commonly refer as the turnstile. The idea here is that if your transaction includes sapling inputs or outputs, the net sapling change is going to be the sum of all the is the sum of all the sapling inputs minus the sum of all the sapling outputs. So if your transaction does, for example, let's say sapling to transparent, S to T, then you're going to have a net sapling change because you are going to bring sapling funds, but you're not going to use the sapling funds. You're going to use the funds as transparent. So whatever you bring as sapling are going to be used as transparent. Therefore, the net sapling is going to be positive. Again, it's a sum of inputs minus sum of outputs. And the same thing for orchard. These values are clear in the blockchain, and a block explorer, a good block explorer can show you that information. And the final public information is the fee. The fee is actually can be easily calculated based on the other information that you have. It's just there as a summary. So the fee is what? This fee is well, we know that the entire transaction would balance to 0. Is this equivalent all inputs is equal to the outputs plus the fee. There's no money that goes to no one. Either the money goes to the recipients or it goes to the miner. So since we have the transparent inputs and the transparent outputs, these are clear. We have also the net sapling change and we have the net orchard change. We can calculate easily the fee. But Wallet will calculate that for you. And now we see that this fee is 0.1 millisec. We know that the fee is calculated based on the ZIP 317 rules. Therefore, it depends on how many inputs and outputs you have, and it depends also the pools that you're using. Since in this transaction, we're not using any sapling and orchard pools, it's all coming from transparent. And this looks like regular two inputs and 2 outputs. So maybe not 2 inputs, but at least we have 2 outputs because we have 1 output to go to the recipient and 1 output that goes as change. Therefore, the formula is max of number of inputs or outputs. In this case, is 2, and we pay 2 times the base fee. So 2 times 0.05 millisec. This amounts to 0.1 millisec. So this screen is a summary of all of that. Again, for a T2T transaction, you have very low privacy. And if you want to set a minimum privacy at which that you want to enforce, you can go to the settings and go to privacy. And now you have, the UI is not very nice, but you have this bar here. It's very low, medium, and high. So for example, if I say I want a minimum of medium privacy, I need to, this looks very bad. I put medium, and now this screen tells me that privacy is too low. It's below my minimum requirement. So I cannot send it anymore. The arrow for sending is no longer present. If I do still want to make the transaction, can override and still send it by pressing on the privacy very low, the message that says privacy very low, and holding that button. So this is what it says: privacy too low, long press to override. But I cannot accidentally make that transaction because it would be exposing too much of my personal data. So let's do another one. Let's do a S to T. So now that's another type of transaction that will reveal your information. Anything that is transparent, obviously is going to reveal information because the transparent part is public. So let's try that. It says S to T. Right? S to T means that I can use the same address here. So I'm just going to change the pool. I can deselect the transparent pool, and now we select the sapling pool. Anything else? Nothing else changes. Let's do this transaction. And now the output is the same. I can see that the first row remains the same. I'm still sending to that transparent receiver, but I'm not using the transparent input anymore. The value is 0. And now I'm using sapling input. You can see that the sapling input is 0.515 millisecond. No, 5.15 millisecond, which means that the fee is higher. Right? Before I was only paying 0.1 in fees. Now I'm paying 0.15 in fees. The fees are higher because according to ZIP 317, the rules is that you have to pay for inputs and outputs separately. In this case, we are having it looks like we're having a sapling input and we have sapling outputs. So we have one sapling input and two sapling outputs. We always have a minimum of two shielded outputs. The reason is that we don't want to allow the crypto analysis to figure out that this transaction has no change. So we always have a minimum of one output and one change, even though this change here is not necessary. So we have actually a dummy output. So we have two outputs, one sapling input. So the rule is max of the two. So the sapling contribution to the fee is two actions or two marginal fees. And now we have also a transparent output, which is 1. So therefore we are paying 3 marginal fees. 3 times 0.05. We are now paying 0.15. So I'm not going to continue detailing how fees are calculated. You're more than welcome to do the calculation by yourself. For this case, I don't think it's going to be very difficult to infer the fees, but the idea is that regardless of the complexity of the transactions that we're going to build, the fees are computed automatically. And let's go to see the privacy. This is more interesting. In this case, we are using sapling inputs. Right? We're using, because we are saying S to T. Therefore, we are at a higher level of privacy than before. At least we are not revealing where the funds are coming from. We are revealing where the funds are going to, but we have no choice because the receiver has asked us to give the money to a transparent address. But we have done our best by hiding the origin of the funds by using a shielded address. In this case, a sapling input. But you do see that the sapling change is minus 51. Oh, actually, the value that I show here is the opposite of the value that I said. So the net sapling change here is the sum of outputs minus the sum of inputs. So in this case, we have inputs, but we don't have outputs in sapling. Therefore, the net change is negative. We can do the same with orchard to transparent. So again, we just switch and we use the orchard pool. And we expect to see something very similar. And as expected, we have the exact same thing, but the difference now is that instead of using sapling, we're using orchard. The fees are exactly the same. We're paying also 15, and the output is the same. We go to transparent, but now the input comes from orchard. So that covers T to T, S to T, and O to T. Now, what happens if we don't have enough funds in the pool that you're saying, right? So we're trying to do O to T, and this pool has only 26 millisec, but I want to set 30. So obviously it's too much, and it's just going to fail because we don't have funds. But let's take a look. Well, we just say it's not enough balance, right? So that's clear. So to go through here, I need to add more funds to my inputs, and therefore I will allow to use sapling. So now we have both sapling and orchard as possible inputs, but we still want to send only to a transparent output. And let's see how the transaction is going to be determined. All right. So now we have 30 millisecond sent to the transparent, so that part is expected in the destination. And now we have to use both orchard and sapling. And you can see that in order to minimize your exposure to your information leakage, we're using a combination of sapling and orchard inputs. Because by using both sapling and orchard, now the fee is higher. It's 20. The next stuff that is interesting is the most common situation where you leave all the pools available. You're saying that this transaction can use any of these funds. So what's going to happen? Let's take a look. The transaction is exactly the same. The reason why it's the same is because this is a transaction that is the most secure, most private that we can do. If we were doing a T2T, we would be lowering our transaction to very low privacy. So even though we have transparent funds, as long as we have sapling and orchard funds, we are going to use these funds first. So let's see what happens as we go up and we ask for more and more money. All right, so now if we go and say we want 45, so nearly the entirety of our treasury, now the wallet is forced to use transparent funds. It has completely exhausted our orchard and sapling inputs. Right? They cannot use more than that, and it has to dip into the transparent inputs, the transparent funds, and therefore by doing so, we have lowered our privacy because now this transaction contains our source wallet, our own wallet transparent address. We have lowered this transaction to very low privacy. So you can see that the transaction can have different levels of privacy for the same recipient, for the same address, depending on how much you're trying to pay, how much you need to pay, and what is your distribution of funds available in your own wallet. So this would tell you that it is important actually that your wallet has the proper combination of funds. And the one of the things that people will recommend to you is to move your funds from transparent to shielded as soon as possible. So that's what the ECC, what the devs would say, the Zcash devs say, private by default, meaning that if somebody sends you funds to your transparent address, the wallet will migrate these funds to sapling or orchard. I think depending on what the wallet supports. I think that's an interesting idea for sure, and for common users, it may be the best solution because it removes the risk of having all your funds in transparent addresses, in transparent address, and making transactions when you're trying to pay somebody who will have to use a transparent pool, right? So if you don't do any management, if you don't do anything, and you have received your funds in your T address because, for example, you got these funds from an exchange, and most exchanges typically only send to a transparent address. There's only, to my knowledge, one exception to the rule. Gemini can send to a Z address, to S address. The rest is going to send to a T address. Therefore, if you don't make any effort, you're going to end up with having your funds in your T address. And then if you pay someone, that it could be that accidentally you're actually paying from your T address because your funds are not shielded, and you're revealing your own address. So the wallets like without saying that they do auto shielding. They will shield they will make a transaction in the background. It's under some conditions that I actually don't know what they are. They would take these T funds to move to your S funds or to your O funds. The problem I have with that, and that is that if you don't do that in a way that is smart, or in a way that is configurable, you can actually end up in a situation where you need these T funds and you don't have them. So arguably, then you can do a transaction that brings them out of the shielded pool and bring them back to the T pool. But there are many cases, typically for people who are trading, to have funds in the T address. And one being that exchanges, they want to have their the transaction funding your accounts on the exchange, so deposits, to come from a T address. So that's a recent requirement, incoming requirement from Binance. And this comes from the fact that if they don't have, if you don't do a T to T, so if you don't fund your T address from a T address, so for example, if you do a sapling to T, or you do Archer to T, in case where they want to send the funds back, they want to refund your money, because, for example, they don't like your account, they don't know where this money comes from, they don't like the spending pattern that you have, something is suspicious, and they want to return the funds to you. They are not able to do that because they have no return address. Right? They don't know where the funds came from, which is kind of the same as if if you send an address to the post office and you don't put the sender address, and turns out that the post office wants to return your letter. They cannot do that if you haven't put a return address. In this case, it would just destroy your letter. But in the case of Binance, it's a bit questionable to destroy user funds. So I really don't know what they're going to do with that. I don't know if they're just going to delete Zcash because the requirement cannot be met, or they can negotiate something with the users. But it's a consideration to keep in mind, because if the wallet is doing auto shielding, you're gonna have a transaction that goes Z to T and O to T, or Z to T, something to or Archer to transparent. All right, so this is already 25 minutes. I'm gonna stop here for the first video. But in the next video, it's going to be a few of them. We're going to take a look at the other types of transactions. So we're going to take a look at, now we do T to S or T to O, so T to Z transactions, and T to the T starting from transparent and going to either sapling and orchard. And we're also going to take, of course, a look at fully shielded, so S to S, O to O, S to O, O to S. And because now we have Orchard, no, because now we have UA, the a recipient can give you an address that has both sapling and Orchard receivers. So what will the wallet do if you are given one of these type of addresses and you want to pay that person from a wallet that has, for example, only sapling or only orchard? And what would happen if your wallet has actually both sapling and orchard, and you're paying somebody who can accept both sapling and orchard? Will the wallet do sapling to sapling or orchard to orchard, or will it do a combination of the two? So that's what we're gonna see in the next episode, or maybe we'll take more than one, because then afterwards we have also the case of having multiple receivers. Multiple receivers will happen when you're paying more than one person, and these people with these recipients will have different address types. You can pay one person on the T address, and you can pay another person on the UA address that has all the receivers, and all of these can be part of the same transaction. So this is a functionality that only Y Wallet offers. I think Zcash offers that also. You can do a send mini. That's the same functionality as that. So these are fairly advanced scenarios, but this is something that Y Wallet has to handle, because it supports these multi payments and to any receiver types. All right. So stay posted for a future video. For the moment, we're stopping here, and we have covered T2T, T2S, and T2O.